Hello and welcome to this screencast. My name is Oliver Wirkus. I'm a senior SharePoint consultant with Softlanding in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP. This video is a part of a series of videos that we at Softlanding created to assist our App Modernization initiative. The videos in this series are providing technical information for developers and IT admins that is directly related to our App Modernization workshops and talks. Before we start, please allow me to quickly introduce Softlanding. We are a Vancouver-based Microsoft systems integration partner founded in 2000. We have about 50 staff in our Vancouver office and are partnered with, amongst others, Cyrusen, Metalogix, Nintex, and specialize in Microsoft Enterprise technology. Our area of expertise comprises of 4 pillars. Number 1 is the Microsoft Productivity Stack, including Office 365 and SharePoint. Pillar number 2 is all about Microsoft infrastructure, including Azure and on-premises infrastructure. Pillar 3 is focused on custom development like app development, SharePoint and Azure development. And Pillar 4 is our security practice. If you would like to know more about what we are doing and how we might help you, please visit our website or contact us via info@softlanding.ca. Azure is a great platform to host your modernized business applications, but it also offers great support for developers and IT admins. If you have a web application, for example, that is deployed to the cloud, and this web application is accessed by users frequently, you might get a problem when trying to update this web application. This is where deployment slots come into play, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use deployment slots in Azure. To be able to utilize Microsoft Azure as a platform to host your business applications, you first need to have a subscription. If you don't have a subscription yet, you can always get a trial subscription that is available for 1 month free of charge. Navigate to www.azure.microsoft.com and sign up for a free trial account. As I just mentioned, in this video I'm going to show you how to use deployment slots to update an existing web application without affecting users who are currently using the web application. In my demo, I'm using the same web application as I did in the previous videos. In the subsequent videos, we will take this demo application and enhance its functionality and reliability. To show you how a deployment slot is working, let me switch back to my PowerPoint slide deck here. So let's assume you have created a web application, you have created version 1.0 of the web application, and you deployed it to the cloud successfully. Let's further assume your web application is up and running for weeks or months and is used by users from all over the world. Now you decide that it's time to update the functionality of your web application. Now it's time to create version 2.0 of your web application. While your users are still using version 1.0 of your web application, you're starting Visual Studio, you're loading the existing source code from a source code repository, and you start to work on version 2.0 of your web application. You're adding additional functionality, you're doing some local tests, and when you're done with your local tests, you might want to update your web application. You need to deploy version 2.0 of your web application to the cloud. But if you do that, you will run into a problem. If you just upload or deploy your new web application to the cloud, this might affect users who are currently using your web application because this will probably drop their connection. To solve this issue, you need to look for a period of time where your web application is not being used by any users. That can be 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning or on a weekend. But if you have users from all over the world, this approach probably won't work for you. In Azure, there's a good solution for this, and this is where deployment slots come into play. So let's have a look on how deployment slots are working. In the upper right corner here, you can see the version 1.0 of the web application, and this web application has been deployed to a production slot in Azure. And this version, the version 1.0 of the web application, is being used by users from all over the world. If you want to update your existing web application, if you want to create version 2.0 of your web application, you can start using Visual Studio, and you can add additional functionality to the source code, and you can deploy your updates to an additional slot, a so-called staging slot in Azure. So while you are working on version 2.0 and you're deploying your updates to the staging slot, your users can still continue to use version 1.0 of your web application. And as soon as you've done with your testing, you might want to update your web application. You might want your users to be able to use version 2.0 of your web application. That can be done very easily, because the only thing you need to do is you need to swap those slots. Swapping slots means the staging slot becomes the new production slot, and the former production slot is becoming the new staging slot that you can use to work on version 3.0 of your web application, for example. The benefits of swapping slots is that Azure is able to swap slots almost immediately without affecting users who are currently using your web application. So your users can continue to use your web application even while Azure is swapping slots, even while Azure is updating your web application. Let me show you how this works. I'll switch back to my dev environment here. So this is Visual Studio 2015, and I have loaded my App Modernization demo solution. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create version 1.0 of my web application, and I'm deploying this to the production slot in Azure. So step one is I'm going to replace the title. So I'm going to replace ASP.NET with production. I'm saving this, and I'm deploying this update, which will be my version 1.0 of my web application, to Azure. So I'm using my App Modernization publishing profile for that, like I did in the previous videos. So let me just click on Publish. So Visual Studio is now compiling my web application, and as soon as it is done with that, it's starting the deployment process, and it's updating or uploading my web application to Azure. So Internet Explorer is showing up, and while Internet Explorer is trying to load my web application, let's have a look at the URL here, and this is the usual URL. So this is the URL of my app service. It's called App Modernization Demo.AzureWebsites.net. So let's give Internet Explorer a couple more seconds. Okay, here we go. So you can see this is version 1.0 of my web application, and here's production title. Okay. So let's close this and switch back to my Azure subscription. Switch back to my Azure subscription here. Okay, so this is my subscription dashboard, and here you can see this is my App Modernization demo app service I've used in my previous videos. So let's load this app service here. To create or to add an additional deployment slot, you simply need to look for deployment and click on deployment slots. Okay, here you can see I have already created my staging deployment slot just to save us some time. But if you want to create an additional slot, you simply click on the plus sign here, plus add slot. Click on that. You just need to apply a name, and you need to select a configuration source, your existing app service, for instance, and you're done. So I'm not going to do that now because I have created a deployment slot already. So let's click on OK here. Instead, let's have a look on how this additional deployment slot is looking like. As you can see here, this deployment slot has the name staging, and the deployment slot is working very similar to an app service, and it also has its specific URL. If you look at this URL here, it's almost the same URL as my existing app service. The only difference is there is a dash staging here in the middle of that URL. So this has been added by Azure. To be able to use this additional staging deployment slot, I can download a pre-configured publishing profile by just clicking on Get Publish Profile. So let me click on this. You see I can download a publishing profile that has already been configured to be used by this staging environment here. So let's close this. And let's switch back to my dev environment. So here's Visual Studio again. And what I'm going to do now is I would like to create version 2.0 of my web application. So to do that, I'm replacing production title with the word staging. I'm saving this, and I'm going to deploy this updated web application, this version 2.0 of my web application, to my staging slot. To do that, let me right click on my application here and I click Publish. The first thing I need to do is I need to import the publishing profile I have just downloaded from Azure. To be able to do that, I click on Profile here. Here you can see here is the button to import an publishing profile. So I've done that already to save us some time. If I click here, you can see there's my App Modernization minus staging web deploy publishing profile. So I'm using this now. I'm selecting this, and just to verify that everything's fine, I'm clicking on Connection, and I'm checking the destination URL here. As you can see, this is the correct URL because here is dash staging. Okay, so let's deploy my version 2.0 of my web application to my staging slot in Azure. So the profile is the correct one, staging profile. Okay, let's click on Publish. So again, Visual Studio is compiling my web application, and after that it's trying to upload that web application, or it's trying to deploy that web application to my staging environment in Azure. So the publishing process has been started. It's working. Internet Explorer should show up in a couple of seconds, I hope. Yeah, here we go. So while Internet Explorer is trying to load my updated web application, have a look at the URL here, and you can see this is the URL of my staging slot, because here you can see minus staging in the URL. So let's give Internet Explorer a couple of seconds more to be able to load my web application. Oh, here we go. And as you can see, this is version 2 of my web application, because here you can see staging as a title. Okay. So let's assume I've done with testing this version 2.0 of my web application, and let's assume I would like to make this my new production version. In other words, I would like my users to be able to use version 2.0 of my web application now. So how can I do that? To do that, I need to switch back to my Azure environment here. So let me close this again. And here you can see let's start from the beginning. So let's close this again. Let's go to the app service I've used. And in the app service here, you can see there's a swap button. And this is exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm clicking on swap. What I would like to do is I would like to swap without preview. And I would like to swap from staging to production. So let's click on OK. And Azure is currently swapping the slots, so this should take just a few seconds. And while Azure is doing that, let's switch back to my dev environment here. So here you can see Internet Explorer is still showing version 2.0 of my web application, and it's getting that web application from this URL, from the staging URL. Now that I've just swapped slots, this should show my old production version as soon as I click refresh. So let's do it right now. Refresh this page. Oh, I see. Now my production version is hosted within my staging environment. And if I look at my production environment is the environment that my users are currently using. So let's have a look here. Oh, I see. And my production environment is hosting version 2.0 of my web application, because here you can see this is staging. This was the update I have applied to my web application. As you've seen, there are just a few steps needed to create an additional deployment slot in Azure and to ensure that updates to an existing web application can be done without dropping connections or affecting users. In the following videos, we will add additional functionality to this web application as well as enhancing its reliability. Thank you very much for watching this video and stay tuned.